Stephen Dean speaking. I was just sitting out on this fine, balmy evening when, for some reason, I started to think about William Golding's great novel, Lord of the Flies. I don't know if you're familiar with it, though it is quite a popular novel, so I guess quite a few of you are. But it concerns a lot of British schoolboys who are shipwrecked on a desert island, and no adults are there to supervise them. And they start off as the kids they are, you know, just talking to each other and carrying on like children, and still until they start to divide as necessity grabs them. They need to get something to eat. There's lots of fruit to start with on these trees just by chance, but they need meat, and there's pigs on this island. And one kid finds he can kill these pigs with his sticks. You know, they learn to spike these pigs and eventually kill them in very sadistic ways. The Lord of the Flies itself was a pig's head which they hacked off and impaled it on a spike, which William Golding went on to poetically describe as the Lord of the Flies. And of course the head, the severed head, was covered in flies on a hot tropical island. Anyway, the boys are split into these two camps, and they become a warring factions as they sort of like got more and more savage and more primitive. They started to wear war paint and started little skirmishes against each other. Ralph, the hero of the story, remains as upright as he can be in the circumstances, but he's the leader of one gang who tries to keep reason with his little intelligent friend Piggy, who gets killed by accident, and he loses his right-hand man, or right-hand boy, so to speak. It's a very sad part of the book, although it's a sad story altogether, really ending. Anyway, the story culminates with the two warring factions meeting head-on the beach for one big battle, you know, and they were really degenerating into savages by this time. I don't know if degenerate is the right word, really. They've reverted into a very primitive people. That's much better than savages. It sounds savage, but that would happen in a dog-eat-dog society like they developed into. They had no adult supervision and no training of how to really carry on. Especially around the time that book was written. Anyway, eventually the boys are going to meet on the beach. Well, they are meeting on the beach, and there's about to have some big battle or something like that. It culminates into this. Then suddenly they spot a ship on the horizon, and there's some smaller boats coming in, eventually coming to shore, and these Royal Navy sailors getting out of these boats and looking around, and one of them says, "Blimey, are these kids I'm seeing here? Am I dreaming?" I mean, obviously you don't expect to find a bunch of school kids. By this time they weren't wearing their school clothes. I mean, their hair was really long. They were wearing like stuff they'd made themselves. They'd look like actual little tribesmen. And he looked around, he says, and one of them says, "It wasn't always like this." Because suddenly something happens to the kids. They realise with this sudden unseen authority appears, they all remember that they weren't always like this. And they all begin to cry. And he says, "Come on boys, you're British, aren't you? I thought you'd have put on a better show than this." You know, kind of rubs it in. And in the end they're all just standing there, a bunch of boys, little boys, crying. And that whole world they lived in, that tribal world of killing pigs and attacking each other, just faded in an instant with the return of an authority. It was just an illusion for those kids, an illusion that had developed around them out of necessity and sheer terror, because they were terrified at night time. Yeah. The point I'm making is that it is all just an illusion built up by what we think is going on, necessity out of terror, what we think is going on. And then when that great authority comes and wakes us all up, well, we ain't going to be all crying. Yeah, it's a great tale that is, Lord of the Rings. Late evening, I don't usually do talks this late, but it's been a nice evening to think. Cheers. Anyway, see you later. Bye.